Today is the third day I've been trapped in the cellar. This is what happens when you fall in love with Sebastian. He orchestrated a kidnapping, locking me away here just to stage a lavish wedding with his first love. On the fourth day, a torrential rain suddenly began outside, and water started seeping in through the cracks, steadily flooding the place. When I was nearly drowned, someone pried open the heavy flagstone and pulled me out. When I woke up, I found myself surrounded by people. Sebastian was there too. He frowned and, in a dissatisfied tone, asked me, "Where have you been these past few days? You keep vanishing. When will you ever be sensible like Wendy?" I looked bewildered and asked, "Who are you? Where is my fiancé?" When the doctor told him I might have amnesia, Sebastian visibly relaxed. My parents, who had been worried beside us, had feared that when I came out of the cellar I would cause trouble for their youngest daughter. After all, I'd been stubborn since childhood and quick to take offense. When they heard I had lost my memory, their faces changed at once and they accused me, "You've been wicked all along. Being kidnapped is only to be expected. Hopefully this will make you reflect." Having said that, they didn't care about my condition and just left. I hadn't come to my senses when Sebastian beside me asked in a probing tone, "You really don't remember anything?" He suspected I was colluding with the doctor to deceive him and win his sympathy. His gaze made me very uncomfortable, as if in his eyes I were some kind of filth. Irritated, I snapped, "Are you something so important? Do I really have to remember you?" He took my words as a play of coyness and smiled coldly. "Better that you forget. From beginning to end, it was all your own self-deception anyway." With that he left. Over the next week my memories gradually returned for the most part, except for this man Sebastian. His memory seemed to have been erased, and I still couldn't recall him. Sophia hurried back on a plane from abroad as soon as she heard I was in the hospital. When I said aloud that I truly didn't remember anyone named Sebastian, her eyes screamed, "Do you think I buy your bullshit? Even my best friend is convinced I'm playing hard to get. Was I ever that pathetic?" He actually persisted in pestering someone who looked at me with nothing but disgust. Could it be that I'd been possessed by some time-traveling woman? Seeing me sink into thought, Sophia sighed, "If you're trying to get his attention by doing something like this, I'd advise you not to. Sebastian's heart is harder than stone. He won't pay any extra attention to you just because you lost your memory." Since when did I become so humiliated? Betting my life, playing at amnesia, just to win a sliver of care from a man who never treated me as anything worth his notice. Facing Sophia's disappointed, "I wanted you to be better." Look, I asked cautiously, "Was I really that thoughtless before?" For a moment Sophia couldn't tell whether I was playing dumb or truly had amnesia, but she answered me honestly. "After you met Sebastian, you went completely mad. You laid your heart bare for him, give it to him on a platter, and even if he trampled it with his feet or stabbed it with a knife, you swallowed the pain like honey. Because of him we almost severed a 20-year friendship." Halfway through she reddened around the eyes. She took my hand and, in a pleading tone, said, "Please stop loving him, okay? He's heartless. No matter what you do, he'll never love you." A sudden sting shot through my brain, as if some switch of pain had been flipped. It hurt so much that tears sprang to my eyes. Sophia was startled by my movement and hurriedly called for a doctor. After a round of examinations, the doctor said this was a residual effect of severe oxygen deprivation and advised me to rest more. Only after hearing the doctor did Sophia finally believe that I had truly lost my memory. She said nothing, her eyes full of worry. She feared that if I recovered my memories and saw the grand wedding Sebastian had held with my sister, I would be unable to cope with the shock and might do something to harm myself. After a long time, she spoke to me earnestly, "Promise me, no matter what happens in the future, don't hurt yourself." I nodded. "Okay." Soon, the day of discharge arrived. Sebastian sent a driver to pick me up. I didn't get in the car, instead I took a taxi to another place. According to my memory, I came to a villa outside the city. To my shock, that villa had long since been burned down. Its interior was pitch black, the doors and windows ruined, giving the impression of years of decay. I stood at the doorway, stunned for a long time. Are you looking for someone? This household moved away many years ago. A building manager came to tell me. I hurriedly said, impossible, my fiancé, no, my boyfriend lives here, he never told me he moved out. In my memory, I had a childhood playmate named Felix. He was the illegitimate son of the Gu family. I was an invisible person whom my parents didn't love. We saved each other and eventually became the most important person in each other's hearts. He couldn't have left without saying goodbye. The manager, perhaps remembering the horror of that night the house burned, sighed and said, the owner of this villa was burned alive. He was actually rescued at first, but when he heard his girlfriend hadn't escaped, he ran back into the fire to save her, and that's why he didn't survive. I shook my head desperately. Impossible. I was kidnapped not long ago, he was the one who saved me. At that time I was trapped in the cellar, the water nearly drowning me. When all my cries for help were useless, it was Felix who lifted the stone slab and pulled me out. The caretaker's expression shifted, and in a sinister tone he said, Miss Olivia, have you forgotten something? The young master died trying to save you. Later you found out who set the fire, and to avenge the young master you got close to Sebastian. But gradually, you betrayed the young master and fell in love with Sebastian. After speaking, the caretaker removed the wig and fake beard, revealing his face. But I had no memory of this man at all. The administrator saw the bewilderment on my face and a knowing light entered his eyes. I've checked your medical records. Back then you inhaled a large amount of smoke and your body was damaged. Over time your brain began to suffer transient amnesia. But the young master loved you so much, you shouldn't forget him, and you most certainly shouldn't fall in love with his enemy. It turned out the administrator was Felix's butler. After I was discharged, the first thing I did was put together a complete revenge plan, but plans couldn't keep up with what happened. My brain developed problems. Each day when I woke up I would lose pieces of memory until I had completely forgotten Felix. At some point, the memories of the things Felix had done for me had become Sebastian's face. Gradually, imperceptibly, I fell in love with Sebastian. I couldn't accept what the butler was saying, a sharp pain stabbed through my brain, and suddenly a memory surged over me. It was a great blaze, I was trapped in the middle with nowhere to flee. Just then, a huge hand reached in from outside, gripped mine tightly, and said to me, "Don't be afraid, I'll take you away." That voice was exactly the same as the one that rescued me from the cellar not long ago. I gulped air, cold sweat on my brow sliding into my eyes, the pain bringing tears streaming down my face. The butler saw this and, without further provocation, silently turned and left. That night, I returned to the C family villa. In the drawer, I found 2 marriage certificates. They were for Sebastian and me. The shock from that afternoon made me recall something. The week before I was kidnapped, Sebastian and I had registered our marriage. And the reason he registered it with me was to repay a debt of gratitude. During a car accident, I had risked my life to save him. He said, "I can register our marriage with you, but I won't give you a wedding." Even so, I accepted it like honey on my tongue. But I had forgotten one thing, that car crash was something I had orchestrated behind his back. My intention had been to kill him, and then I turned away and forgot all about it. I saved him. Staring at the 2 marriage certificates in front of me, I wanted nothing more than to tear myself apart. Just then a voice came from behind, "Didn't I warn you not to bring that thing out again? If Wendy sees it, her heart absolutely won't be able to take it." Sebastian was back. The Wendy he spoke of was my sister. She was born with a congenital heart disease. Whether it was our parents or Sebastian, they all treated her like a treasure in their palms, never allowing her to suffer the slightest grievance. I turned back and looked at Sebastian coldly. For a moment, I didn't know whether to hate him or hate myself. Maybe he saw the hatred in my eyes. Sebastian froze for a moment, then blurted out, "What kind of crazy mood are you in again? I just won't let you take it out to look at it, it's not like I'm divorcing you." I glanced down at my watch. By now, the police should be almost here. Seeing I didn't answer, Sebastian assumed I was sulking and frowned. "Could you be a little more magnanimous? Getting jealous of your own sister at the drop of a hat, what's the point? The next second, the nanny came in to report that the police had arrived. Sebastian only paused for half a second before reacting. Just as he was about to call the lawyer, I snatched his phone and slammed it hard onto the floor. Sebastian was stunned by my action. Soon, the police came upstairs, showed their IDs, and said, "Mr. Sebastian, someone reported you for suspected kidnapping. Please come with us." Sebastian glanced at me and sneered, "So you really didn't lose your memory?" I took out the recorder and handed it to the officers, replying to him in the same mocking tone, "I may have lost my memory, but I'm not an idiot. You sent people to kidnap me. After they threw me down into the cellar, they called you. I didn't have my phone on me at the time, but I had a recorder. I meant to film the scenery, but it ended up capturing evidence of your crime." Sebastian was taken away by the police. But this did not pose a real threat to him. He had a massive legal team, and my bit of evidence was quickly overturned by them, not to mention they had already found a scapegoat. It took less than a day for Sebastian to be released. I had bribed quite a few paparazzi. On the day he was released, Wendy went to pick him up herself, only to be surrounded by reporters. "Miss Olivia, we heard you interfered with your sister's marriage. It's true, isn't it? You and Mr. Sebastian held a lavish wedding on the island. Did you register your marriage? Mr. Sebastian kidnapped his own wife and tried to kill her, then moved for you. Are you touched? Miss Olivia, you're seducing your brother-in-law. Is it true love or just for the thrill?" Wendy had thought she could use Lady Sebastian's status to bring him home, but she didn't expect to be surrounded by paparazzi who shouted a string of humiliating questions at her, twisting her face with rage. Supported by lawyers and bodyguards, Sebastian came out. Seeing Wendy besieged, he gave an order and the bodyguards stepped forward, quickly driving the paparazzi back. At that moment, I appeared holding the marriage certificate, crying in grievance, "Sebastian, how can your heart be so cruel? I'm your legal wife, and you sent people to kidnap me, to try to kill me. You scum, why are you doing this to me?" I cried miserably, every spotlight trained on me, my tear-streaked face and the marriage certificate photographed in sharp detail. That contrast would make the public sympathize with me. With this move, I intended to ruin Sebastian's reputation. A paparazzo shoved a microphone right up to me and asked, "When did your sister get involved with Mr. Sebastian, and is your marriage certificate with Mr. Sebastian real?" I just kept crying, not answering, only holding the marriage certificate up again into their camera's focus. Sebastian was furious at my gesture. With a single look he signaled, and the bodyguards came to pull me away. I dodged and feigned terror and shouted, "Help! Sebastian is trying to kill me," to silence me. Sebastian couldn't afford to lose face and left with Wendy. The paparazzi still wanted to interview me, but the bodyguards who stayed behind drove them off. As soon as they dispersed, I stopped crying, calmly wiped the tears from my face, and acted as if nothing at all had happened. Sophia rushed over when she heard the news. At first she thought I was the one who'd been bullied and had brought 5 or 6 thugs, but what she saw was something completely unexpected. As she was preparing to slip away, she noticed, hidden in the crowd, a man wearing a newsboy cap. He furtively drew a folding knife from his pocket. Seeing him run toward me, Sophia shouted, "Run, someone's trying to kill you." No sooner had she spoken than the man's knife stabbed forward. I had no time to dodge. My arm was sliced by a deep cut, and blood gushed out instantly. Sophia shouted to the henchmen to move in, and within moments they had seized the man. The police station was right beside us. He would still dare to attempt murder. Clearly, whoever was behind him genuinely wanted me dead. I pressed my hand against the wound, but the blood wouldn't stop. Sophia glanced at the police station, then at the man, signaled the henchmen to drag him into the van, and told them to take him away. After that, Sophia took me to the hospital. The doctor stitched me up with more than 10 stitches, saying the wound was deep and might get infected, and told me to stay overnight for observation. Sophia finished her call, came back in, and asked, "Do you know who sent that man?" By now the anesthesia had worn off. I bit and gritted my teeth in pain. Hearing her words, I answered without thinking, "Wendy." Sophia nodded. "Your sister is truly vicious. The person she found not only has a record, but is mentally unstable. Even if he killed you, the law couldn't touch him. Your sister has heart disease and doesn't do any good deeds, doesn't she fear retribution? Someone who got everything they wanted as a child could never understand the word retribution. In her eyes, the whole world owed her. Seeing that I didn't speak, Sophia sighed. Get some rest. I have things to take care of. I'll come see you again this evening. Sophia had barely left when my parents arrived. They came to demand an explanation from Wendy. Why did you bribe the paparazzi and ask those insulting questions about your sister? What did she ever do to you? The person Sebastian loves isn't you, your divorce was bound to happen sooner or later. Why won't you just let go? If he loves Wendy so much, why doesn't he register their marriage? If Sebastian died right now, the one who would inherit his estate would be me, not Wendy. Rather than come here to make a scene with me, you should be persuading Sebastian to divorce me. Looking at their faces, I realized how foolish I had once been, willing to play the dutiful, sacrificial child just to win their concern. They don't like me, and the reason is simple. Grandma left everything to me, company shares, funds, savings, not a cent to my parents or Wendy. My parents' marriage was something Grandma never acknowledged, yet she favored me alone. My parents, in attempts to please her, often used me to ingratiate themselves with Grandma, but she wasn't taken in by it. Her kindness toward me was limited to me as a person. So they broke down, and especially after learning they had inherited nothing, they hated me even more. Over the years they have, on one hand, enjoyed what I provided, and on the other hand, spat on me. From now on, they won't get a single benefit from me again. Seeing my sudden change in attitude, Mom didn't directly scold me, but turned to chastise Dad. Look at the good daughter you've raised, say a few words to her and she talks back 100-fold. They always say children are the parents' debt, you shouldn't have had her in the first place. In response to her veiled reproach, I shot back, if it weren't for being pregnant with me, you wouldn't even have been allowed through the Lynn family's front gate. A large part of why Grandma disliked Mom was her poor education and family background. If Mom hadn't been pregnant, and supposedly with a son at that, Grandma would never have agreed to her marrying in. On the day I was born, my mother had planned a switcheroo, but Grandma had brought several doctors along, ready at any moment to test DNA. The first time Grandma saw me she looked disappointed. I wasn't a boy. As she was about to leave, I suddenly smiled at her and grabbed hold of her finger. Maybe it was blood, maybe it was a soft heart. Grandma accepted me, but she could not accept a mother who had come in by trickery. My mother was furious at my words and shouted at me, "You think you're all grown now, looking down on me, huh? Keep looking down on me, I'm still your real mother. If you've got the nerve, go die and give your life back to me." I looked her in the eye and said, word by word, my life was returned to you long ago. On the second day I was locked in the cellar, half conscious. I heard voices from outside. They must have thought I was out cold and couldn't hear them. They were discussing whether to pump poison into the cellar to kill me or to let me fend for myself. They were my parents. Sebastian had kidnapped me and locked me in the cellar. He never intended to kill me, only to keep me confined for a few days, but Wendy found out and deliberately told my parents. They had planned to seize my estate long before. Now that they had the chance, they set their trap and filled the cellar with car exhaust. If they hadn't been afraid of being discovered, they would have stayed a while longer. I'd probably be dead by now. They tried to kill me once. Unfortunately, I didn't have a recorder running, otherwise I would have put them behind bars. My mother instinctively wanted to argue, but when she met my cold gaze she looked away guiltily and fell silent. My father put on a kindly father act and said to me, all right, you know your mother's temper. She's all sharp tongue but soft heart. She cares about you. When she heard you were hurt she came straight over. Don't pick a fight with her. I sneered, who sent that lunatic? Don't you have any idea? The reason I didn't call the police isn't because I'm magnanimous, it's purely because I want revenge. My parents exchanged a look, a new trace of panic in their eyes. Thinking of something, they called Wendy as they hurried back home. Watching their hurried backs, I let out a contemptuous laugh. At that moment, Sophia sent me a video. In the footage, the mentally ill man was provoked until his eyes were bloodshot, his behavior completely out of control, and the place where he was located was the Lynn residence. Wendy had just gotten out of the car when she was slashed once across the face. The video ended with Wendy's sharp, terrified scream. The next morning, Sebastian personally came to pick me up from the hospital. I had expected a storm between us, but to my surprise we were both as calm as dead water. After we returned home, he finally spoke slowly and asked me, "Was that mentally ill man the one you sent over?" I played dumb. "What are you talking about? I don't understand." He sounded a little angry. "Why did you hurt Wendy? I'm the one who locked you in the cellar. I never intended to harm you, I only wanted to fulfill Wendy's dream of being a bride. The doctor said Wendy's heart won't hold out much longer. You're her biological sister, why can't you be a little magnanimous?" I took out the marriage certificate and said, "I think what you said makes a lot of sense. Let's get divorced right now and let her become Mrs. Sebastian." Sebastian froze. It had been my life debt that forced him to register our marriage back then. Now I agreed to a divorce in a few words. Everything seemed so trivial that Sebastian couldn't tell for a moment which version of me was the real one. "Not brave enough? You're such a coward," I taunted on purpose. He didn't flare up at my words, if anything he grew calmer. "When did you become someone else?" I said nothing. He didn't want to argue with me any further. As he turned to leave, I summoned all my strength and shoved him down the stairs. Weightless, he tumbled down, colliding with the steps. I had pushed so hard that the wound on my arm split open, blood soaked through the gauze and stained my shirt. The housekeeper, alerted by the noise, ran over and saw Sebastian holding his forehead at the foot of the stairs. I stood on the landing of the second floor, the corner of my mouth lifting slightly, as if I were watching something very entertaining. Sebastian looked stunned, he never dreamed I would push him down the stairs. In his eyes, I loved him like my life, and now that had turned into an unending grudge. Across the distance, we looked each other in the eyes, both of us knowing there was no going back. He didn't accuse me. I didn't speak either. We simply stared at each other in silence. After who knows how long, he turned and walked away. As his back receded, I called out loudly, "Sebastian, you'd better sign the divorce papers." He paused, his steps faltering, but he didn't look back. In the blink of an eye, a week had passed. I went out to the villa beyond the city again and found the caretaker, hoping to squeeze more information from him. Over the week I had tried many methods, hypnosis, psychological suggestion, even considered a hard jolt to the brain, though I feared it might backfire. But I simply couldn't remember anything more. I always feel surrounded by a fog, unable to tell truth from falsehood. The keeper wasn't the least bit surprised that I'd come to him again. This time he handed me a box, and inside was a ring. "This is the ring the young master used to propose to you, do you remember?" I took the ring, I had no recollection at all. Could Felix still be alive? I asked the question I'd been dying to ask. The keeper paused, then shook his head. "Impossible. I was the one who collected the young master's body. I was trapped in the cellar and nearly died. It was Felix who appeared and saved me." "You must be mistaken." The administrator cut me off. I checked the records of the person who took me to the hospital. That person really wasn't Felix, just a passing stranger. But I remember clearly, the one who saved me and the one who took me to the hospital were not the same person at all. Was my memory scrambled and I remembered it wrong, or was Felix still alive but unable to see me? Seeing my blank expression, the administrator said to me, "It was Sebastian who hired someone to set the young master's house on fire and burn him to death. What you are doing now is taking revenge for the young master." "Why would he do that?" "Because the C family wanted to swallow up the Gu family. The main branch's young masters are all fools, so they don't threaten the C family, but the young master is different, he's a prodigy in business and would inevitably be brought back into the Gu family. So Sebastian struck first to eliminate him." After the administrator finished speaking, I remained silent for a long time. I had an uneasy feeling that something was off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Before I left, the attendant handed me a small packet. This thing is colorless and tasteless, but highly poisonous. If you truly love young master, you should know what to do. I hesitated for a moment, then took it. In the days that followed, I submitted myself to the doctor's treatment every single day. While I couldn't tell right from wrong, I didn't want to do anything I would regret for the rest of my life. So I chose to stop all action. Only to avoid becoming someone else's tool or knife. That day, I had just arrived home when Sebastian grabbed my throat and yelled at me, "What are you trying to do? Let Wendy go right now, her heart is weak, if she gets startled, she'll die." He squeezed so hard I couldn't breathe. Struggling desperately, I landed a punch on his temple. He cried out and threw me aside. Gasping for air, before I could recover, my parents came in. My mother knelt to me, sobbing, "If there's anything, take it out on me, don't hurt Wendy, she can't stand a shock." My father looked at me with a hatred that could kill. "You're nothing but a beast. You've already disfigured Wendy, and now you're trying to kill her. Your heart is more poisonous than snakes and scorpions." Even if I didn't fully understand, I already guessed what had happened. It was probably Wendy who had been harmed, and they were sure I was the one who did it. By then I had recovered enough to pull out my phone and call the police. My mother rushed over and tried to snatch my phone. "The kidnappers said we can't call the police, otherwise they'll kill her." "If you know I didn't do it, then why are you still making trouble for me?" "I guess they know it wasn't me who kidnapped the person, but they still want to gamble, to test my attitude and what I'll say. If it wasn't her, they'll find another way. When it comes down to it, they just want to drag me into it." Sebastian had registered it too, and looked at Mom coldly. "Weren't you just adamant a moment ago that she was the one behind this? Why are you changing your tune now?" Mom was frightened by Sebastian's gaze and stammered, She's always been vicious and jealous of Wendy. Even if she didn't do it, giving her a lesson is still justified." The reason made Sebastian's face go dark in an instant. The proud young master of the C family had actually been played for a fool by a woman. But it was more important to find Wendy now, he could settle the score later. Seeing that they couldn't get any useful information from me, the three of them hurriedly left. I touched my neck, the marks from the pinching were still there, and a faint pain lingered. At that moment, I made up my mind about something. I was experimenting on a lab mouse when I received a call from Sophia. "Do you know your sister has been kidnapped?" Sophia's tone was entirely that of a bystander enjoying the show, without a trace of sympathy. I was surprised the news had spread. Given Sebastian's personality, he would surely have suppressed it. There was no way he would let the outside world know. "Where did you hear about this?" I asked. "That madman's family uploaded the video of your sister being abused because the Lin family refused to pay them, but the video has already been taken down. The madman she mentioned was the man Wendy had bribed, who, after failing to assassinate me, suffered a psychotic break and ended up stabbing Wendy. After wounding Wendy, he was committed to a psychiatric hospital. His parents discovered on his phone that he had been collaborating with Wendy and demanded money from her. Wendy gritted her teeth and paid once, which only whetted their appetite. They kidnapped Wendy and demanded 10 million in ransom. The Lin parents had no money, but the C family did. 10 million would have been enough to ransom Wendy, yet the Lin parents and Sebastian insisted on coming to make trouble for me, wasting time. That delay made the two of them think the Lins wouldn't pay, so they posted videos of Wendy being abused online. Sophia chattered on the phone. I fed the last bit of powder to the little white mouse, and before long it foamed at the mouth and died. It's truly satisfying. She went out of her way to find a mad dog to bite you to eliminate future trouble, and in the end she got bitten and crippled herself. What a comeuppance, Sophia concluded. I only smiled faintly and said nothing. The next day, Wendy was rescued. She had been tortured into an unrecognizable state. Sebastian surprisingly apologized to me. I was impulsive before. I shouldn't have believed them and threatened you. I handed him a cup of tea. No need to apologize. Sign the divorce papers, consider it your way of making amends to me. He stared at the cup, his expression very calm, and asked, "Did something come to mind?" I nodded. I remembered. "The one I love isn't you, it's Felix. His death has nothing to do with me." I smiled. "I know. The administrator lied to me, saying the fire was set by Sebastian, that his motive was to eliminate Felix, a future rival. But from my investigation, the Gu family could never hand the family business to Felix, and Sebastian would not have risked being exposed to eliminate an enemy who didn't even exist. So, I suppose, Felix is still alive. He used all of us to escape his life back then, because someone had marked him as a thorn in their side. If he hadn't broken away from that life, he would have died sooner or later. But the mastermind was not Sebastian, it was the Gu family. That fire was probably set by them. He just didn't expect the administrator to be so loyal to him. Even if he faked his death, he still wanted to avenge him." Sebastian downed that cup of tea in one gulp and signed the divorce papers. "Even though we hadn't been married long, he still left me a good portion of his assets. I didn't take them. What my grandmother left me is enough to let me live a good life for the rest of my days." 6 months later. In a small town I found Felix, who was now married with children. Of course, he wasn't dead. He was the one who had pulled me out of the cellar. The moment I saw him, a flood of indescribable feelings washed over me. He seemed to have suspected I would come looking for him, and the first words out of his mouth were an apology. "I'm sorry, did I ruin your life again?" It turned out that after faking his death he had someone hypnotize me, wiping my memories of him. Later, seeing that I was attracted to Sebastian, he turned my memories of him and me into memories of me and Sebastian, hypnotizing me into loving Sebastian deeply. In other words, all my misfortune was brought on by him. I asked him, "Why do this to me?" He replied, "I only wanted you to be happy." This kind of happiness is really revolting. The person I fell in love with unconsciously turned out to be fabricated. I said nothing. In the end, we toasted each other with tea instead of wine, each wishing the other a bright future. Only, I slipped something into his cup of tea. He will not have a bright future. This toxin won't kill him, but it will make him suffer for several years. This is his retribution. Later, I hoisted my pack and walked away to distant places, never to return. My life is only beginning now.